now you're live.
Cool. This is I'm Sid, CEO of GitLab. We're at AWS reInvent, and I'm here with a mutual customer. We're a customer of them, they're a customer of us. The people from Chorus AI. Maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly.
So I'm Noam, VP R&D of Chorus.
I'm Russell, co-founder CTO of Chorus.
And we use their product. It's really good. It helps our salespeople be way more effective. But we're recording this because they were asking some questions about how we run GitLab. So I say fire away.
This is live. We find it really interesting how you've been able to grow. I mean, it's been 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, beginning of April of 19, we were 9 people with the company. We're now
Exactly.
400.
Wow. Yeah, so you've grown from 9 to 400 in a very short amount of time, and it's all distributed, which always adds its own challenges. We've got a few offices, and we have challenges around it too. Just communication, making sure that we have proper processes in place. Communication in a few different ways, like what are the channels you're supposed to communicate different things that you can't tap people on the shoulder? How do you make sure you get a response? How do you make sure that you're not bugging people?
And also how you keep everybody in line.
How do you keep everyone aligned?
Everybody with the same culture and the same goal and reacting fast and the same sense of urgency and all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, those are a lot of questions.
It's a lot.
I'll try to.
How did you do it? Like, how are you able to get to 400 people in such
Yeah, we call the model all remote. If you Google GitLab all remote, we have a huge page with all kinds of pointers to the things we do. There's different elements to it. So what you're going to have in a remote company is less informal communication, less people walking by, people overhearing each other. Your software is helping with that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen in the day-to-day, and it's harder to kind of look over your shoulder or look at to your side to see what someone else is doing. So we tend to write a lot more. We have a handbook of more than 1,500 pages, and all the processes are in there. And if you want to change something, instead of sending an email, instead of asking people, we try to get people to change the handbook instead, and then link to that. And then the new person coming in will be able to read the same thing. So if you grow fast, you always have to realize a year from now, most people that will be there at that point will not be at the company today. We're more than doubling every year. So do you want to optimize for today, or do you want to optimize for a year from now? You should be optimizing for a year from now. So write things down. If you join GitLab, you get an issue with over 100 checkboxes of things you have to do to onboard. That's the same at a normal company, except no one put it all together, because you kind of figure it out as you go along. You see something on the screen like, hey, what's that system? And oh, I don't have access to that. Oh, you should ask this person. In the GitLab, that's way less. Some people report at GitLab, everyone's so nice if I ask a question. Like, yeah, that's because we documented 90% of them, so there's fewer questions left, and people have much more patience for it. Another thing, you got to over communicate officially. So this morning at 8 o'clock, I sat down. We were having a meeting. I walked out of the meeting early to be with the team. We were having a call about what we were learning here at reInvent. Because it's not going to be the day I get back to the office, people say, hey Sid, what do you learn at reInvent? So you have to be very conscious of communicating that. When we were fundraising, there's a fundraising channel, and play by play, like every meeting we have, we talk what happened and who said no and who said what. So we tend to over communicate in the official channels to compensate for that. As for your values, I think we reinforce them every step of the way. The first step is to write them down. So when you write them down, think, let's see.
In live.
Unfiltered.
There you go.
Credit, collaboration. Okay, I'm not going to go in order because I can't really remember. Collaboration, iteration, transparency, R&E,
Results.
results, and
Which one did you miss?
efficiency.
But it's like 4 out of 6 for someone who's been here 2 weeks is already a lot better, because it used to be a 1 out of 13 for executives that have been here for 3 years.
Yes.
So an acronym
Nice job.
We're at a 6 is
We're
better
going
than
like
I was
that.
going to be. All right.
They give me a high five.
You're like in the top 98%.
Yeah. So what we do is we reinforce it. If you're over here, every single time someone is promoted, every single hiring interview you make, every single time someone gets a bonus, you'll see our values going by. That is the top level organization. If you rate someone's experience factor, you're going to look at the values. So they come back each and every time, and that's how you reinforce them. And I think the people that are here now know our values a whole lot better than the people when we started the company. I think like a co-located company works really well when you're in the same room, works a little less well if you're in the same floor, a little less well if you're in the same building, a little less well if you're in the same city. Like it gets diluted. What's nice about the written word, it gets improved. If you look at our values page, it's getting edits. Every week someone is adding some context somewhere, making them better, like explaining more about how we do that. And so I think instead of getting diluted, it's getting richer.
So basically you're saying document.
Yes, I think that's the message that our executives are getting.
I was gonna say I would also add, documentation is important, but encouraging everyone to collaborate in that documentation so that people aren't just reading the documentation, they feel like they have a responsibility to participate and make that documentation better represent the current standard. So if someone has an observation for the company about, hey, I think we could improve an explanation of the values in this way, the expectation is that you do indeed improve it, and you are the one who makes the change in the handbook. It's not just Sid, it's not just the leadership team, it's everyone collaborating to make those values, which helps everyone feel ownership. I know with my team, one of the things we do to enforce this on a daily basis is when we make changes in process. We recently resegmented our sales organization, and we framed that in the values. This is one of the reasons why we are doing it, to actually make us more aligned with our values than we were before. So that daily reinforcement is not just once a year, it's not just at your 360 review, it's not just at your onboarding. It's even in the changes we make in our company every single day, we can relate those back to the values, which helps everyone be thinking about it.
So I was going to ask a question of who owns this, like in your company, who did own it, but it sounds like you're trying to set it up in a way that you have 400 employees on this.
Yeah, if you look at who's making changes to our handbook, it's a lot of people. I do think like the values page, I'm getting the accept button. Like so, there's
People
a difference between the person proposing, the person accepting.
Right, of course.
It's me and our chief culture officer who do most of the work there.
How early on did you hire a chief culture officer?
Pretty late. Too late.
You felt it was too late?
Yeah, I think it would have been better to invest there sooner. And I think we're still underinvested.
And how do you kind of let's say you do like a big change, like not even a big change. Big changes are easy because like there's a big announcement and you kind of hammer it through. But let's say you do like a medium change, like from each day on, I don't know, before you commit a code, you need to kind of make sure you do this extra test or this extra validation, or you need to kind of make sure that it doesn't hurt legacy customers or whatever. So now that goes in. Like, how do you enforce it, especially if it's like annoying? Like, how do you enforce annoying kind of practices?
Even on a sales team,
Like you change the playbook. You need to like that kind of.
That's course.
Yeah. That's a self-serving question. Well, you're much better at this than I am.
Well, so the changes to the sales process, I think, is probably a better one than the development process because we do a lot of that in GitLab. So GitLab helps us to constantly engage the developers in that process, but we use GitLab across the company. So we think of process in everything we do, and the handbook is meant to be a good environment for small changes. So it's very easy to communicate a small change. We don't say, hey, go reread the sales handbook. We shoot out a Slack that says, hey, just made a quick update to the SMB sales script. And there's a link to the change. You can click on it, you see the handbook, and you see what changed. So very quickly, it's already highlighted for me what changed. I already have the context. If I want to read the rest of that page, I can. But usually it's like, oh, I get the update. The cutoff's now 100 employees. I now understand the new segmentation. Those small changes are actually very helpful. When you go through the big monolithic change and rewrite 50 pages, that's very cumbersome, and it's hard for everyone to get motivated to go reread that and figure out how that's going to change their day-to-day.
Any other questions? I have another question. I think it's more even for sales and marketing. I mean, also for the whole company, but less R&D related. I'm curious of how you see things. We really like your vision on the R&D. Like we're talking about the whole development process, starting from planning. I mean, I can't remember all of your stages. That's something you guys should know off by heart, but I don't have to know it off by heart. So I'm wearing the hat. I don't have to know it off by heart. Like a plan. I don't know, manage, deploy.
Plan, create. No, it starts with managing.
Yeah.
Plan, create. Ooh, now it's getting better.
Nice.
Verify,
Yeah, you've added.
configure, release, monitor, secure.
Secure
I
is-
might have skipped one.
Yeah. So I saw the secure wasn't there like a few months ago.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how fast that's
Yeah.
gone. We acquired a company called Gymnasium.
We're using it. We've already using the other DevOps.
Yeah, you're
we're using it.
Yeah. he and his team just absolutely knocked it
Yeah.
out of the park.
Yeah, we really like that. So, how do you see that? How do you see? And then, and what I like about the way you see this stuff is you try to measure everything in there, right? You're trying to measure how do we plan, how do we create, how do we do? You're trying to measure
measure
everything.
the cycle time. Let's
Exactly.
see how fast we're going through all the stages and get that time down.
Yeah, so I really like that. How do you see that working in the rest of the organization as well? Like, how do you take the ideas that you have in GitLab, like but that you built in your product GitLab, and use the same sort of stuff in the rest of your organization?
I think for everyone, it's all about cycle time compression, and that's for developers and security and operations. Operations mean time to resolution, but that's also in sales, shortening the sales cycle, shortening each individual part of the sales cycle. I think we're also discovering in sales that we have to have many small changes. We don't want to do these big changes because it makes everything much harder. So small refinements to the process continuously. Where we use Chorus a lot is with our SDRs that have a lot of phone calls with customer. How do we optimize the scripts they use? How do we make sure they share the scripts, but also that the majority is on the script we know to be working, and not on something they devise themselves, but something that's been proven out to work.
I wasn't trying to sell this like as a just so you know. I don't need you to. It's good that you're doing it.
It's a good example. It's a good example.
If it's true,
That
that's
happens
good.
to be true.
If it's true, that's great.
true.
But it could be outside of the core stuff too.
But I mean, the course is related a bit to the conversation about the
Yeah.
culture. One of the primary use cases that the reps were asking for the most was their own self-reviews. They wanted to listen to themselves. They wanted to go back and hear what worked, what didn't, how they can iterate and improve on their own. So there's a coaching element, there's a management element, there's a lot of different capabilities, but we're also enabling the team to continue to iterate on their own, even faster than we as an organization might be adapting. And ideally, we then get those best practices people and share that and say, hey, I think I figured it out. Here's a new one.
Yeah.
And the company doesn't wait for the rest of the leadership to necessarily devise an improvement. We're constantly improving all the way down to the individual rep level.
And then you could update this. You could update the playbook on the thing. I figured this out. They're going to put that change in. It's going to get accepted by the manager or by you. I'm not sure
Yes.
who would be doing it.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
you or Chad or
We
whatever.
we put that in the handbook, but we also then can very quickly point the rest of the company to, hey, here's the new thing in the handbook, but also here's the video. You can just see it live.
And you
We
can
have
see
to- we
why
have to
it works.
re-record a new one.
Exactly.
We already have it.
Anything else from you? I think we had one more.
Well, while you're thinking about it, just one thing to add is that I haven't,
You don't have to record.
because I'm
this while
new,
you're- Yeah.
But it takes commitment because Sid reinforces this to us all the time.
Yeah.
So it takes commitment. to say
I'm
what
hearing about it. Like I run what's much smaller, of course. But I'm thinking about it that if I don't persist.
Yeah, I don't think
initiatives they don't
people
stick.
aren't used to this.
And they need to.
It's very counterintuitive. So I will not stop saying, hey, that's a Google Doc, but this is going to end up in the handbook. So shouldn't you do it handbook first? Oh shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you add message the channel in Slack, but your message was important, but it wasn't urgent. We should make sure we reserve the shoulder taps. It's our only way of tapping someone on the shoulder. It should be important and urgent because we also reach out that way to people. So please don't do an ad channel mention. Like, I won't stop going on about these things. And it takes 6 months to 18 months before an executive gets it. But then they start enforcing that down their own chain. Because if we don't do
4 or
this,
5.
It's gonna be faster with this guy.
I think there is a lot of benefit to organization. Like it's something that you don't want to do, but it's like exercise.
It's like
eating your
exercise.
greens, right? It's like,
It is,
You don't want to do
exactly.
it, but
it's not
good.
pleasurable. It doesn't taste that good. But the end result is going to be better.
Yeah.
It feels a little awkward when you have to call someone out on the stuff.
Yeah.
That's it's good.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward for the person you're telling it to too, and try to do it in one-on-one channels so that don't always succeed.
Exactly.
So we do have a couple minutes left. So,
Yeah, so
last question.
I saw what I found it on my phone. I think this is something similar about you mentioned like on your Slack, when you're fundraising. It sounds like you had that open to the whole company almost.
Yep.
To let everybody
We
know.
even have the core team members who don't work at GitLab. They sign an NDA. They're on there too. So outside contributors.
So, in that vein, how do you make key decisions in the company in general?
That's an excellent question. We have, if you go to our leadership page, we talk extensively about this. We try to combine the best pieces of a consensus and a hierarchical organization. Consensus organization is great because you get a lot of data, you get a lot of input. So we open up issues, we tell everyone like, hey, I'm doing this, welcome your thoughts. But the decision is made by the directly responsible individual without having to convince anybody else. They don't have to convince people, don't have to agree. They do the work, they make the decision. And you can do something else that your boss wants. If you do the work, you make the decision. That's very hard, but that's needed because a hierarchical organization is much better at executing things. If you make the decision consensus style, you get into a failure mode where it takes so long to make the decision. And to gain speed, people are going to start hiding their projects from each other, not asking each other for input because it's on the radar, then everyone's going to weigh in and you're slowed down. If you're only hierarchical, the failure mode's obvious, you're not getting enough input and you don't see all the facts that happen.
Because I've been part of many open source companies, people, especially if you haven't been part of an open source project, you think, oh, it's all consensus driven. That's not true. The best open source projects have a benevolent dictator who makes the decision. So you do have contribution, but you have someone who makes a decision so that the organization can move forward. And so I think that's sort of what's written down for what we're doing here. It is a lot like an open source project.
You don't want just the person at the top, you want the decision being made at the lowest possible level, not at the highest possible. I should take as few decisions as possible, working on that. You want the individual that has to do the work because it's very frustrating if you didn't take the decision, but you still have to make that a success. I'd rather make a slightly worse decision, but have someone super motivated to make it work. Or maybe learn from their wrong decision.
Do you find it hard to do that? To start to let go of making decisions?
Oh yeah, that's
Like,
not-
I'm
that's,
saying-
that's super hard.
You find it hard.
No, but I mean, because you're growing so fast. Like, it's interesting. Like, a lot of people, like, the founder of a company, you have time. Generally, you're not growing as fast as GitLab's growing. So you have time to, like, work into it. You have time to hire the people you're going to trust. You have time to build that trust with them.
Every time the company doubles, your role changes. You have to let go of more and more decisions.
It's just happening so fast.
Also, it seems like even like I think like you guys thought about it when you were very small and you're executing on the same plan as you're really getting bigger. It looks like I wouldn't be scared to make that bet. You know, how could you be sure when you're 9 people that philosophy is going to scale to when you're 9, like democracy and like when a little
Well,
bit
I
dictator
mean,
everything as well. But
it's
then, like,
flexible.
a lot of people, and now it's you could potentially dive
I was just
into
going to
chaos,
say,
right?
it's flexible. Sid,
Yeah.
Sid has views of how this should be done, but also he's flexible if there's a better way that emerges now that we're Florida. And so you have to be if you're willing to change too.
And I didn't write everything down. Like when we were 9 people, some things came about. But I worked at some pretty large companies, and a lot of this is like I want to avoid some situations that I saw and never go back to that again.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
So that's where a lot of this came from. Cool. Well, thank you so much for the questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for filming us.
Thanks for the time.
That was great.
So now we search for GitLab Unfiltered.